when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, at what point in childhood would that be? I think I remember wanting to be a secretary. Pretty terrible career ambitions for the daughter of a feminist. But at some point I wanted to be a writer. So there you go.
About what age did writing become your thing?
I remember being in 6th grade when I was 11 years old, and my teacher one day had a recorder, and she just played a tape, and the tape was the sound of falling rain, and then she had us write. And I wrote a truly, ridiculous piece looking back, because I wrote from the perspective of an elderly homeless man. I was, an 11-year-old upper middle class kid. But I thought it was, I thought it was pretty fabulous. But more than that, I was really kind of enchanted by writing, and from that point on, took that as part of my identity.
Where were you in the social pecking order in high school?
It's funny. I saw that you had asked that to a few people, and so I was trying to think how I would describe myself in high school. I wasn't particularly cool. It's kind of weird, though, because if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said, I was totally uncool in high school, and I kind of wanted to be a rebel. I didn't do anything rebellious, but I just had the attitude of, I'm too smart for this, and these people are all idiots, and I'm really the cool one, even though I really am, socially feel totally awkward day to day in my high school. But then the strange thing is Facebook, right? Because now I have all these high school friends on Facebook, so it makes me really rethink who I was in high school, because I feel like so many people remember me from high school, and I seem to have way more friends in high school than I had remembered. I kind of left high school and thought I'm never thinking about that period of my life ever again, and really didn't. And now, all of a sudden, high school has a really different feeling to me, because all these very friendly people are friends with me on Facebook, so I don't really know anymore what I was like in high school. Just trying to be the rebel, but not really succeeding, I guess.
Has your place in the social pecking order changed over time, or where would you put yourself?
Oh, well, I don't know. There's no real, what social pecking order now, right? I think I'm probably a lot more confident than I was back then. And particularly, in high school, I went to a big public school in Brooklyn.
Which one?
Midwood.
Okay.
Midwood High School. And so the truth is, I'm surrounded by such different people day to day now than I was there, that it's really a whole different culture. So perhaps I'm just not kind of back in that place, but I'm definitely more confident than I was back then.
Right. I mean, I was the class clown, and kind of an anarchic influence, and that hasn't changed. Are you more of an observer, a participant? Do you an organizer? Do you pull people together? I'm just trying to picture you in a group of people.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think in those ways I'm pretty similar. I'd say I'm an organizer. I'd say I take a lot on. I'd say I talk out of turn a fair bit, talk too much probably. Pretty nerdy, right? So in high school I would have always done my homework and couldn't resist answering questions if I knew the answer. Not, I don't think, in a horrible, overbearing way. Of course, that's just my perspective. Maybe I was horribly overbearing. But in those ways, I don't think I've changed much.
Happiness level. Is your happiness level being pretty constant over the span of your life?
I'd say more or less yes. I think I'm a very pretty stable, pretty happy person. I mean, there were times that were less good, but the truth is that I've had it pretty easy, and so I haven't really ever had to face any kind of crisis situation. And I was raised by parents who really made me feel loved, who were capable of that. So So I've had it pretty good emotionally. Every writer, I suppose, anyone who does art has that kind of darkness that they go to. But my darkness is pretty tame, probably.
Where does the publication of your book rank among the things you're happiest and proudest of?
That's a good question. It's very strange, actually. I worked on that novel for years and years and years. I began it 7 years ago, and so I think, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, that there's ambivalence with publication. There's a little bit of, you kind of feel like, it's something that you began a long time ago. It can be almost difficult to return to it and to see it out there, and so I really like kind of looking at it in a bookstore, but then opening it and reading it I find quite difficult. And I'm sure people feel that way. And then, it's sort of, I was just talking to someone who was saying, like, it's so wonderful, and you've gotten published, and I've gotten some good reviews, and that's true, and it is wonderful. I think what also I do, and I'm sure, again, everybody does, is you kind of, you're always looking up to the next level, so aware of the ways in which, like I'm looking at your website at some of those writers, and I don't at all feel like I've arrived in any kind of way. And so I think there's a lot of excitement, and I'm very, very proud of having finished the novel and gotten it published at the same time as there's a lot of sort of feelings of, ambivalence. Am I good enough? Am I really a writer? There's a way in which I still definitely don't take myself quite seriously on that level. So, and then you just have to get up and start writing something new, and it's good to know that I've done it. So then I think, well, I can do it again. But at the same time, a blank page is still a blank page, and just because you've done it once doesn't mean that you now have a plan for how you'll do it again. So, I don't know. I'm not really sure I'm answering your question, but it's kind of all over that. I guess the flip side of that is I have 2 young daughters, and so for them, I'm proud and happy every day. So that's much more tangible, easy kind of relationship. No ambivalence there.
I'm struck by the people I've interviewed on this question. For those who haven't married, the publication of their book tends to be the greatest thing that they've ever done. And for those who have married, let alone have children, then it ranks down there.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. And they're very different things, and you don't want to get into some kind of work, wife, mother, dyad where it's, what's the most important thing. They're very, very different things. But writing is difficult. It's hard, it's tough work. And then standing by your work is really hard. If I get a good review, then I feel really good. I've gotten a few bad reviews, and, I feel terrible.
You have? Really?
Yeah. I'm not going to
most of the reviews seem really glowing.
I got a bad review, actually, from a Jewish paper. That's all I'll say. I'm trying to bury it in internet land. I don't want anyone discovering it. But so, that's just so different than, having kids who, a book doesn't hug you at the end of the day, right? So, and I think it's also different because I am studying to be, I'm doing clinical placement right now. I'm a full-time student midwife. So my daily life is not, it's kind of like I have this whole other thing I'm doing. And some people who know me from that as a midwifery student have no idea that I've written anything at all. So it's just this whole kind of split identity as well, which maybe impacts it to some extent.
When you read a review of your book, do you feel like they are reviewing you, or how much are you able to step back from that?
I don't feel like they're reviewing me. I think actually I am able to, I'd say, compartmentalize it all pretty well because I'm doing something so different and I'm so busy that, that it's easy for me to, it doesn't kind of ruin things. It's sort of like I don't really have the time to think about that. A good review is wonderful and makes me feel fabulous. And then a bad review, it depends. There was one bad review I got where I really did actually think that the reviewer was wrong. But another one, every book has its weaknesses, and authors are more aware of the weaknesses of the book than anybody else. So it's not that, certainly